Tyler. Okay.
Best. That looks good.
Okay. All right, great. All right, I'm Annette Galloway, for anybody who's out there, and chair of the Green Team, and we called this meeting to share information about the Egg Harbor City Urban Heat Island Mitigation Plan. Tyler here from Dell Atlantic Conservation District prepared the original assessment, Heat Island assessment, and it was accepted by the City Council in February. Was it February? And this is a follow-up to that, and it takes the assessment and turns it into a kind of like an action plan to mitigate some of those heat islands that were identified around town. We sent invitations to certain people on the avenue because Philadelphia Avenue is identified as a hot spot. We sent it to the Egg Harbor Yachts building owner, Dr. Arachaki. We sent it to the owner of the Harbor Plaza Shopping Center, which is also identified. And we sent it to the city's public schools. So I did get a couple responses from the schools that they would not be able to attend. So they're what was identified. So as you can see, it's the Green Team here, and we have our new member. I'm calling you a member, Brendan. Brendan Berg is online with Jerry. Hello. And so here is Tyler to talk about what he found out.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for having me. I will run through a little bit of the assessment just for some context, and then we'll go into the mitigation strategies that we'll talk about for each one. So just again, for those who don't know me and for the recording and everything, my name is Tyler Savage. I am the forestry technician for Dell Atlantic Soil Conservation District. I help out with a lot of community forestry projects, as well as help out with private forestry projects, and also forestry adjacent projects like this. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, a little bit of a background, and that just kind of went over this, but I wanted to again give a little context for, to begin, we had our heat island assessment, which was done in July of 2025, and it was accepted in February by the council. This was done in partnership with the Atlantic Soil Conservation District using guidance from Sustainable Jersey. So Sustainable Jersey has an action plan that is related to heat islands. It is the Heat Island Assessment and Mitigation Plan Action. And this addresses this kind of issue that is a mixture of kind of public health and climate change. So, Egg Harbor City is, of course, concerned about, tackling this sustainability issue. And by assessing and identifying heat islands and then addressing them, then you make your community more resilient to climate related events such as extreme heat. So engagement is really important. That's why part of this mitigation plan is to engage with the public. So at least we have you folks here, and we have the recording. So if people want to come back and watch the presentation, they can and give feedback. So heat islands, for those who don't know what heat island is, it's essentially a hotter, more developed area within a city, and a lot of factors can contribute to these heat islands. It can be lack of vegetation, it can be city structure, infrastructure, human activity, things like that. That can generate these hotter temperatures. They tend to disproportionately affect vulnerable communities. So this can be younger children, older adults, outside workers, unhoused people, things of that nature. And when temperatures rise, we do see these really extreme kind of effects of that. We have more demand for electricity, we have potentials for blackouts, we have increase in fossil fuel emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, and this kind of catch-up effect that takes place. And even stormwater runoff, is affected as well because it can heat up and cause issues as it goes into our waterways. So in terms of methodology and how we did this, it's important that for the mitigation plan and the heat island assessment, that this is data driven. So we use GIS software to compile all of this data from many different sources, whether it was DEP or even Egg Harbor City's Davie Tree Resource Group inventory data. We compiled all of this geographical data and put it into one map to kind of do our work here. So in terms of identifying hotspots, so for the sake of precision when trying to target sites and come up with mitigation strategies, we came up with these kind of definitions here. So a heat island is again this kind of warmer area. They tend to be larger geographical areas, and we use the term hotspot to identify specific site locations within a heat island. So what that might look like is a cluster of hotspots being a heat island. And again, we use our land surface temperature data from summer 2022. That's how we did that, but we'll go a little bit more into that. So this is just an overview of those 3 heat islands that were identified in the heat island assessment report, and their hotspots, which are lettered, and again, those heat islands aren't numbered. So that's what that looks like there. And again, this is not an exhaustive list of hotspots. Additional hotspots may be able to be identified within Egg Harbor City, but the goal of this list is to come up with our most prominent hotspots and work from there. So I'm going to go over just a few brief maps from the heat island assessment. These can all be found in that report, but I just want to give you guys a visual aid of what we're talking about here. So this is the heat island map and the hotspots. So you can see the land surface temperature. Those more orange and red areas are where it gets hotter. Again, those letters are where those hotspots are, and the numbers are each of those heat islands. Just for some context, I believe this is about these really dark spots are about 117 to 123 or something like that degrees Fahrenheit for land surface temperature. And the high average temperature during summer of 22 air temperature was about 86 degrees. So just seeing that difference in the land surface temperature versus that kind of air temperature and what these heat islands can really do. So the next thing I want to show here is the overburden community map. This is so the 2018 to 2022 social vulnerability index was taken for each of these hotspots. It's on a scale between 0 and 1. And it is 0.89 for actually all of these spots. So that's fairly high. It just means that folks in these communities might have trouble preparing for, reacting to, and recovering from climate-related events such as extreme heat. So this is really important when we're talking about mitigation strategies because it can help us target, these communities that we really want to strengthen resilience for these events. So I'm going to go through these briefly because we're going to go more into detail of each hotspot. But this is so you can see some context about where the hotspots are in relation to each other for each heat island. So this is heat island 1. There's 2 hotspots here. You can see there. Again, we're going to go more into detail, so I'll just kind of go through these. This is heat island 2, and you can see there's 5 hotspots here. And then for the 3rd heat island, we have 2 hotspots that we'll be looking at. And again, these were identified in the heat island assessment. This is an overview of the general data. I know it's kind of hard to read here, This again can be found in the report. But what I wanted to point out here in particular is that we have them categorized by type. And type is their characteristic, kind of the cause almost is what we'll say. But this is going to be important when we're talking about mitigation, which is what we'll go into now. So there's two things that we want to look at for mitigation strategies. We want to look at their type. Is this caused by, there's actually a few different things that we'll be looking at for type. Is it little tree canopy or vegetation? Is it large areas of asphalt? Is it dark roofs, or is it synthetic turf? So those are our 4 types that we'll be working with. And then we also want to look at ownership status. Is the hotspot private property or is it public property? And this is important for understanding what actions the city might be able to take versus what actions might be recommended for landowners or business owners or residents, and how they might be able to help, and even through collaboration. The reality of the situation is it's not as cut and dry as that, and through almost all these hotspots, we see both public areas and private areas. And so that's where that collaboration will come in, and where these strategies will kind of come in as we're looking at each specific hotspot. So I want to go over a few cooling strategies that just generally we were kind of picking from in terms of kind of those base strategies to pick from for each hotspot, and then we got a little more specific for each one with kind of unique considerations. But generally speaking, this is outlined in the new report, the Heat Island Mitigation Plan. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but a few things that we can do here is plant shade trees. So street trees or shade trees can provide a cooling effect through evapotranspiration, or it can also just provide shade, which is direct cooling. And there's loads of other benefits that come along with having street trees. We can expand cooling infrastructure. So this is a little bit vague on purpose. Cooling infrastructure can be green infrastructure, so that can look like street trees, but it can also look like pollinator gardens. It can look like rain gardens. It can look like bioswales. A lot of different categories can kind of fall into that, but it can also cover, the way that we worded it here, it can also cover things like cooling infrastructure, like having an area set up in City Hall where people can come when it gets hot, or it can look like having a sprinkler system at a park, or it can look like having, some sort of shade structure built. So all of those things are kind of included in that. We have cool pavements. So this is kind of a new technology, but it is something where pavements can either be kind of reflective or permeable. And this is something that might be exploratory that the city might want to look into, or even, property managers as we get into that. But that's definitely an option, a potential option. And then we have converting dark roofs to green or cool roofs. So cool roofs would be, again, applying some similar kind of reflective, kind of material over a roof to reflect that heat or that solar radiation. And then green roofs would be putting vegetation on the roof. This can be a little bit more in-depth, requires usually more planning. It's difficult to do once a building is in place, but for future development, it's something to consider. And then synthetic turf fields. So synthetic turf fields have a lot of great benefits to them. And when pairing them with some cooling strategies, like the ones we just kind of went through, you can actually kind of offset some of the heat concerns that come along with synthetic turf. So I want to go into recommendations here. So for the sake of kind of time, this is all going to kind of look pretty similar. So I'll go through them, and then at the end we can go over any questions or comments or concerns with that. So this is where we're going to dive into each specific hotspot and the recommendations. So hotspot 1A is Main Street. The types that we have associated with this hotspot are little canopy, paved area, and dark roof. And in the presentation, I know it can be a little difficult to see here, but I tried to kind of show kind of our heat island map, and then also some street views, so you can see what we're kind of talking about here. In terms of ownership, there's one other point I want to make with that. I did mention that oftentimes we see both kind of ownerships in one place. We did categorize into a primary ownership. That way it's easier for priority's sake for projects. So in this case, we have there's public space here and also private space, but we prioritize public space here because that's what it mostly is. And we have responsible parties. So Egg Harbor City is going to be have a role in a lot of these, if not all of them. And we have, Main Street, folks as well. And for our recommended actions and estimated timeline, within 2 years, we're recommending to plant a diverse mix of street trees on Philadelphia Ave. Within 3 years, we're looking to recommend encouraging businesses to install shade structures. So this might look like awnings, and this would be through partnership with the city. We also have 5 to 10 years. This is going to be encouraging dark roof conversion and even considering cool pavement installation. Again, these might be a little bit some more reach goals, but they're things that would be recommended actions if the sites are suitable. And that would have to be looked into for that. So for hotspot 1B, this is the Harbor Plaza shopping area. The type that we have here is little canopy and paved area. Ownership, we have a prioritization on private here, but there is still some public area as well. So responsible parties are going to be the property owner and the city of Egg Harbor, depending on which area we're talking about. And then recommended actions we have for 2 years, tree planting on the public planting strip on Buffalo Ave. So I have a picture of that. It's a little bit hard to see here. It's kind of tiny. But you can see that public planting strip where trees may be able to be planted. And also encouraging planting on the private property. If there's any open space or if the place is developed differently, it's something to consider. And within 2 to 3 years, we would be looking to consider replacing the parking lot pavement with cool pavement. So that would, again, this would be something that we would want to discuss with the property owner. There could potentially be an opportunity for collaboration depending on, the city's goals and the property owner's goals. But considering the large amount of asphalt here, it could be something to consider.
The Lord knows they need a new parking lot.
Yes, they do.
So you could get a win-win there. So
Would the erection of overhead solar panels parking lot be compatible with your recommendations?
Yeah, so solar panels are a really interesting topic. It is something that I looked a little bit into. They're a complex topic. They are built to absorb solar radiation. So in that way, they do kind of increase that heat. But the way in which they are structured can be beneficial. So whether they're over a parking lot or they're on a roof, there is that open area provides shade, which directly cools cars, or on a roof, it cools the building. And that wind that can get under there will also help cool. So there's kind of research that is a little bit up in the air. We didn't feel comfortable enough to put that in our recommendations for this project specifically, but it is something that can certainly be looked into depending on, case by case basis, if that's something that would want to be pursued by the city or private landowner, or a combination of both. But at least for our recommendations here, that wasn't something that came up as a clear, direct mitigation strategy for heat islands. But so yeah, that's a good question though. So the next spot here is the private business 2A. So this is the Buddy Davis Yachts area, and the type that we have is little canopy and paved area. So those are the things we're looking at. This again, prioritized for private, but there are some public areas. So responsible parties would again be the business owner and also the city of Egg Harbor. So for recommended actions, we would be looking at within the next 2 years, tree planting on that public right-of-way along George Street, and then any outreach with the property owner to encourage tree planting, specifically with all the asphalt, perhaps trees around or tree islands or something of that nature might be encouraged here. For hotspot 2B, this is the New Jersey American Water Utility Treatment Plant. The type that we have is little canopy and paved area. This is going to be private with some public. Responsible parties, property owner, also City of Egg Harbor, and recommended actions and estimated timeline. We have 3 years. Would be tree planting. Something I really wanted to point out here that's really great, where that the Davy tree inventory data becomes really important is in spots like this, where you can see in that top map. It's a little bit covered on my screen here, but it'll actually show you where there are vacancies for tree planting. So when we're looking at where to plant trees and we have these hot spots, this is, you know, a great opportunity for that. So tree planting in that spot, again, that would be the City of Egg Harbor. And then also even Philadelphia Ave, there's some on that road as well. And encouraging any tree planting on the private property. The reason we use that kind of verbiage of encouraging is that certain circumstances might make it so, you know, maybe that's not possible. We don't know that at this time, so it's something that the city might want to encourage to see if it can be done, because that would be really great, because there are some open areas on this property here. So the next spot here is 2C. This is Sprague Elementary School. So the types that we're looking at here is little canopy, paved area, and dark roof. This is publicly owned. The responsible parties would be the Egg Harbor City Public School District, as well as the city might be able to help out, collaborate here. So recommended actions and estimated timelines for the school. We have, within 1 year, we have the pilot shade structure installation of key rec fields. This is a really great project that will demonstrate the benefits of having structures like this in the city, and can really help, you know, kind of boost projects moving forward. Within 2 years, we recommend seeing tree planting in those indicated spots. Again, it's hard to see here, but there are a lot of them around there, so that's really great to target those on Buffalo Ave. And then within 3 to 5 years, we would be looking at, you know, potentially having a shade structure or green infrastructure installation on school property. What we want to be targeted would be those paved areas. And again, there could be potential for collaboration, but you can see in the pictures, there are kind of these large areas, and whether that's planting any sort of plants or any sort of trees on the property, or even just a shade structure for the playground or anything like that would be beneficial in reducing that heat island effect. And then within 5 to 10 years, we have here recommending to consider expanding the cool roof. So something I want to point out here that was actually really cool in our kind of analysis. I know it's a little small here, but when we were using older imagery data, we found that the whole roof was a dark roof. When we used up-to-date imagery, because we were kind of sifting through the right data, we actually found that half the roof is a cool roof or a light roof. So there has been work done on this building already. You know, we are not sure the exact reasoning for why the rest of the roof is not, you know, a cool roof.
Well, this was an addition.
Oh, so that would explain it then.
That was an addition, and
There was the chiller project. I
Yeah,
think
there
that
was
involved with
heating.
a lot of stuff with the roof.
Yeah,
They
so-
redid the roof and the heating and cooling system.
Yeah, so that's really great. This is, you know, what these mitigation strategies look like on the ground. If there's an opportunity to expand that particular project, then that could be something that would be encouraged. For the next hotspot, we have 2D, which is Egg Harbor City Community School. The type that we have is little canopy, paved area, and dark roof. This is public ownership. Responsible parties would be Egg Harbor City Public School District and City of Egg Harbor. Recommended actions and estimated timeline for this hotspot would be 2 years. Establish an annual Arbor Day program with tree planting initiatives on the school property. So this could be a way to get some trees on the property while also getting students involved and creating that kind of education and ripple effect, which is a great opportunity. Within 3 years, we recommend tree planting in those vacancies. Again, there's quite a few.
It's that street.
That is
Street,
Okay.
where the
That-
parking lot is.
These
Those
two
are-
ways.
yes, yep. Yes, so that is what we recommend for this hotspot here. For the next hotspot, we have the Philadelphia Village Apartments and Egg Harbor City Maintenance Garage. So the type that we see is little canopy here and large paved areas. Again, this is a situation where we definitely have two different ownership types, private and public. So again, we would have kind of the property managers or the property owner of the apartments, and also we have the city of Egg Harbor in those public areas, the municipal owned areas. So for recommended actions and estimated timelines for this hotspot, within 3 to 5 years, we recommend that any recreational development that occurs in this area has vegetation installed with that development. So that would be really important. This isn't just for kind of addressing projects or things that have already happened, but also for future development projects. It's a way to kind of get ahead of these kind of heat island effects. And then also within 5 years, we encourage the village apartments to have a shade structure or green infrastructure installed on that property. There are playgrounds on the property. There are parking lots on the property. So any of that infrastructure would be beneficial in those areas. For the next hotspot, we have, this is for Heat Island 3. This is 3A, Cedar Creek High School. So the types that we have here, we have little canopy, paved area, and synthetic turf field. This is again public ownership. The responsible parties would be Greater Egg Harbor Regional High School District, as well as City of Egg Harbor. And recommended actions and estimated timeline, we recommend for within 3 years that tree planting initiatives on school property target open areas, recreational fields, and paved areas. We also recommend considering cooling infrastructure around the athletic fields for shade or for water usage. So again, that's kind of that broad topic of cooling infrastructure, but whether it's an area for students to get water or an area that provides shade or provides misting opportunity, any of those things would be beneficial in these kind of open areas. And again, there could be potential for collaboration with the city in terms of tree planting initiatives. Within 5 to 10 years, we recommend that for any development that occurs nearby, which is in kind of the master plan, that strategic development occurs to retain significant tree canopy, because retaining that tree canopy is again kind of getting ahead of that heat island effect, and in an area right next to it where there's already kind of heat island effect occurring, we want to be mindful of that for future development. So for the final hotspot here, this is the neighborhood at Cedar Creek. We have little canopy. Ownership is again, it's mostly private, but there are some public areas and kind of the right-of-ways. So the responsible parties are going to be kind of individual residents or property owners in this case, or City of Egg Harbor and those right-of-ways. Recommended actions and estimated timelines for this particular spot would be within 2 years, promoting ongoing public outreach for tree planting. This could be in the form of Arbor Day events where residents can learn about tree planting and tree care, as well as even perhaps acquiring trees to plant on their properties, but really kind of hammering that on a municipal, on a citywide scale would benefit neighborhoods, particularly like the neighborhood of Cedar Creek, where these folks might be able to get trees to plant on their property and learn why that's important. Because the education around heat islands, as well as the benefits of trees, goes a really long way in these mitigation strategies. So that is kind of the overview of all of the mitigation strategies. Again, I just want to say that this is not an exhaustive list of all hotspots or all potential mitigation strategies. recommendations at this time are subject to change. It's why we're having a meeting like this where we can get feedback and comments because engagement is the way that we can make really meaningful and impactful mitigation strategies. So I'll open up the floor to questions, feedback, comments for consideration. So if anybody has anything to.
I have many things to say.
Okay.
First of all, I think it's awesome that you're a young person and you're into this because this is what we need, young people involved in what's going on. And I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
I talked about Philadelphia Avenue. They used to be all businesses that were there.
Mhm.
Everyone had a canopy.
Mhm.
They're all vacant today.
Mhm.
So nobody's doing anything. Cedar Creek, you put some trees out there when Cedar Creek was built. My husband, for the housing development there, was an engineer for that, and they designated a lot of trees to be built around all those houses and things.
Mhm.
So we have been working on it, but I 100% agree that more, and I didn't realize that there was pavement that was better to use and everything.
Mhm.
And then I ended with, you want to see trees come to my yard? I only live down the street here, and I live in what the old gentleman before me lived there was called it the Garden of Eden. And so we have lots of trees, and I love it because on hot days, we don't even turn the air conditioning on because we have so many beautiful, beautiful trees. I love trees. And if anybody wants more trees, there's always babies coming up around in my yard. So I can also help you have trees. So
Awesome.
thank you so much. That was awesome. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Awesome presentation.
Thank you.
We,
First, a comment to point out that I think it's state law in California, but all pavements are concrete and not asphalt for that specific reason.
Wow, that's awesome.
You recommend trees a lot. Does that extend to the 4 considerations that I would list for which trees to plant? One being crown diameters,
Mhm.
one being speed to which they achieve the crown diameter,
Mhm.
the third being the length to which they live
Mhm.
at that, and the fourth being whether they're correct for the soil that we have in Egg Harbor City.
well, we can't plant London planes everywhere.
Pardon?
I said, we can't plant London plane trees everywhere.
I'm not arguing for London plane trees, but there are many other species. But nowhere in this document have I seen any such recommendations. What do you say to that?
Yes, that's a really great point. That is not something that has come up in the guidance from Sustainable Jersey, but it's a really great point, and it's something that, with conversations with Egg Harbor City, we can, maybe come up with some recommendations. But yes, all of your points were what I would suggest as well. One thing that I would also think about would be location and the location and the potential conflicts. So like utility lines, water, pipes under the ground. All of those things are something that we find is being a really important factor for deciding what trees to plant and where. Like even just coming to mind, the Harbor Plaza shopping area. We recommend tree planting along that right of way, but there are power lines there. But that doesn't mean that trees can't be planted there. You would just want to be, picking the right tree for the right place. And in that case, you would want a small stature, tree, one that, probably grows slower. And that's something that, we have lists for. We use iTree. iTree has a list that we, recommend for our inventories that kind of break up those trees into small, medium, and large trees. That's how, when we're looking at vacancies, what we decide to, at least when we give municipalities their inventories, how we can suggest things for them in that way.
I just wanted to mention that our arborist, Jerry Barbario, who's online, is in the process of doing the fall tree planting program. And because it's the 250th anniversary of the country, we're going to plant 250 trees. So a lot of these 2-year plans to plant trees will probably, probably make a good dent into that.
Yeah, that's great.
And I just wanted to mention too that the neighborhoods at Cedar Creek, where it says Little Canopy, when that property was subdivided, the design of the lots, there are no planting strips.
Right of ways, yes,
So
that's
it's
right.
very narrow, and we couldn't plant trees there.
But Gary did designate planting trees there.
Yes,
He did do that.
they were supposed to plant trees in the front yard,
Mhm.
and a lot of them have them. A lot of them look a little bit bad.
Some people took them out again too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so we were talking about with our tree grants, maybe making trees available to the people who live in that neighborhood.
It could be
Yeah.
other people live there now too and
Yeah,
get them
to plant on their
involved.
property.
Yes,
And
yes,
that would help.
that's a
that
good
area.
idea.
The E-Rec,
Mhm.
The playground, we did get a $50,000 grant to do the canopy.
Mhm.
And they're working on the design of that right now. So
Awesome.
hopefully that'll be up
Awesome.
maybe by the end of summer. It'll be up, who knows? And some of the properties that are the commercial properties, they're in the process of either redeveloping, like the guy who owns the Harbor Plaza Shopping Center is interested in improving that
That's
property.
wonderful.
So, yeah. We talked to him, we'll have to talk to him, and maybe he could create a strip for trees in the middle of the parking lot, and the same thing for Trockies, huge parking lot in front of that building. And the other thing too is right of way on Philadelphia Avenue in front of that property is like 30 feet wide. So Jerry and I talked about doing an experimental planting of American chestnuts,
Oh, wow.
which grow large, and there's no sidewalks there or anything to interfere with footstep.
I was just gonna say with,
So
yes.
we thought that would be a good spot. And then there's also another spot that isn't in your heat island assessment in front of the Marine Building on the White Horse Pike. That also has a huge right away there in front of the building. So I was thinking maybe if we could find the American chestnut trees, we might put a row of them there
That'd
too.
be cool.
So
We used to have a chestnut tree. I could have given you nuts, but now it doesn't.
well, they have been what do you call it? They're like trying to make them more resistant to the disease that killed them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, we always had chestnut tree.
it's hard to find them though, and
And
they're
people
very
can eat the
small.
nuts.
They're small. It's hard to find large ones. It's kind of a new program, but we're going to try that, see if we can work that in. If not, it'll be another species of tree, large leaf trees. And then Philadelphia Avenue is a problem because it has wide sidewalks and no planting strips. They have tree wells for the trees that are there, which are slow-growing ginkgos, male ginkgo trees that absolutely offer no shade at all.
We had nice trees before, and then they spent a fortune to put these ginkgos in there that do nothing.
When they did the streetscape, which is getting kind of 20 years old, at least 20, 25 years old. I don't know how long ago exactly it was.
Philadelphia Avenue is perfect for awnings.
Yeah. If you only had people in the buildings to put the awnings out.
There used to be more awnings on the street.
Everybody had an awning years ago, but there's nobody opening the buildings anymore. Every
So
business had an awning.
as the city develops, and it's really important to look at this now, because Jerry is doing the tree planting plan, and we want to know where we want this to guide where we put target areas. Target, and there, we're hoping that there's going to be some development in the city or redevelopment, and it would be good to have this kind of stuff
Ready to go before we.
incorporated into the master plan.
Yes.
Which
Wonderful.
is in production kind of.
Wonderful.
I was holding off till we get some of these reports that include some of the environmental issues
Yeah, that's
with
great.
the master plan. Once that's done,
That's a great idea.
and the land use board was also invited to be here to hear this, because they review cases all the time.
Yes.
And I was horrified one time when I think it was the liquor store on the pike that was built.
Mhm.
And one of the board members suggested you should take down that tree because it's going to block your sign. And I was like, don't say that.
Oh, my gosh. Hey, if people want liquor, they know where the liquor store
Yeah,
is.
and that's community outreach. You got to educate everybody in town, including the public officials.
Yep.
So. Any other questions?
I was gonna say, as far as like I know we're looking to build more houses out in like our north, yeah, I believe I've listened to like the last 4 city council meetings in the last 2 days at work, so I'm getting a lot of information confused in my head. But I know when they start building houses out there, there is a requirement that there's trees put in, right?
Yes, and it depending on who the developer is and how the project is formulated, we're going to try to save as many of the trees there
Right.
Yes.
as possible, and then have a greater requirement to replace trees. Like, in other words, we're not going to ask you to put 1 tree in front of the house. We might ask you to use 4.
Yeah.
And the city will, if hopefully, got to look at the land, you got to look at the design, but hopefully we'll have a wider planting strip. And if our grant lasts that long, maybe we'll be able to help with the planting of the trees on the street trees, rather than having the developer do it and let the developer worry about planting trees on property.
And you're living in the woods.
Yeah.
So that's,
So you want to keep that.
preserve it.
Yeah, you want to keep that.
I mean, the more trees that we can keep without, picking
Yes.
things, the better, because they're already,
Absolutely.
they're already grown.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And the other thing that you should be aware of is that we passed a tree replacement ordinance last year.
Mhm.
And that also requires any developers to come in and present to the arborist a tree planting plan and removal plan. So in other words, they're going to have to count the number of trees they're taking down and develop a formula to replace some of those trees. So that was included in the ordinance.
Before we do something to Philadelphia Avenue, is anybody studying its use? That is, there used to be shops that drew people to park and walk up and down Philadelphia Avenue to go to the different shops, but those don't exist anymore. It seems to me the only use of Philadelphia Avenue is to get from cars into the apartments that are above the former shops, for which there don't need to be much in the way of shade because it's a very quick process and you don't spend much time on Philadelphia Avenue.
Well, did you ever think that people don't walk on Philadelphia Avenue because it's too hot in the summer?
No, I think they don't walk on Philadelphia Avenue because there's nothing to walk to
But
on
this
Philadelphia Avenue.
is bigger. This is bigger than the people that live there. This is for the environment,
But
that we're keeping the heat from going into the universe.
But is there a need? Is the question.
Yes, there is.
Is there a need for what? To redevelop or?
For trees, if there are no people.
To keep the heat off.
I
of
think
course.
so.
We want to shade the trees.
Yeah,
And
it
change
also
the sidewalks.
beautify the avenue.
I love to see trees, but
Yeah.
There were people that came here and said one of the big draws to Egg Harbor City years ago was the trees on the streets. And we did away with a lot of it. People said over and over, I love this
Well,
town because of the
In
trees that were
defense
here.
of the city, I remember I was reporting for the Egg Harbor News when they did that streetscape. And the council had 3 meetings just to talk about the trees that they were going to plant. And the trees that were removed were the invasive Bradford pear trees. They were coming towards the end of their lifespan.
But we had trees before that. I don't know what they were.
Yeah,
But there were trees that
I would like to know what they were.
I know, we should find out what they were.
Oh, you're in the historical society.
I will
say
find-
something.
This man is the one that will find that out.
you've lived here all your life.
Yeah, I don't remember what they were, but I mean, the streets were beautiful with the trees.
And then we've got the NPP is still doing work towards.
Yeah, but that grant is over now.
Is it over?
So probably
Right now?
Norway Maple.
The theater.
No, it's not.
I love my eighth trees.
The grant was 5. It was a 5-year program.
Yeah, I worked at a coalition.
And this, they didn't renew.
Okay.
There may be other opportunities. I mean, there are like we got the tree grants. We're almost out of the big grant, that $1 million grant. I think we have like maybe $250,000 left to plant, and we really should use it for planting. And then we have a second grant that we're just starting to tap now that has, it's split into two sections. It's actually three sections. One is for education, for people like this that want to be on a forestry committee. Half, 400,000 was for maintenance, and the other 400,000 was for planting. So we still have some money left, and the grants were really eaten up by tree removals because the trees were so huge that, you know, they had to remove like 54-inch trees that cost thousands of dollars to take down. They're coming to the end of their lifespan. They made a lot of shade, but they also are now breaking into the street, not just the sidewalks. So, you know, it's a comprehensive tree program to look at rejuvenating what we have. And hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of these plantings done with what remains. And there are other opportunities, like once these grants go away, there's still other grant funding available. The state always has. They're smaller, they're only like $30,000 grants, but you can do a lot with $30,000.
Yeah, and there are I believe there's a tree care grant coming from the state, potentially tree planting as well.
Egg Harbor, because of the grants that the city got, Net got, most towns do not have that base, that foundation of work that's been done over the last couple of years, and will be able to continue for. So the maintenance end is important for the existing trees, because people begin to think of their trees as nuisance. So if they're not trimmed or the dead branch is taken down, people just cut the whole thing down. So if they're maintained, and now the trees that are in the public right of way between the curb and the street are the city's responsibility. Up until this ordinance was passed, it was not the city's responsibility.
Right. 30 years of neglect is what it amounted
really
to.
happened.
Yeah,
Your people are doing a great job. I mean, all over the town, they're working. Taking down dead trees and fixing people's yards there, and it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Like anything, though, there's detractors. Well, there are some people who don't want a tree in front of their house or on their property. Not
well,
only
that's okay. They can give their money to the Atlantic City Electric instead.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. People don't understand what a difference it makes to have those trees.
Yeah.
And my squirrels live up there, everybody.
And that's really what it boils up. People do not understand. You know?
That's right.
Right.
We can
Well,
educate
that's-
we can educate to a degree. If we get a percentage of those people to come to the other side,
Young people.
Nanette,
We
we're
need
doing
to
something.
educate young people. We do.
Nanette,
And the other thing
can
too, all of this. Yes, Jerry.
can I share the preliminary Heat Island tree planting plan?
Yeah, sure.
Talia, let me share.
Somebody's
I'm
been
gonna
working on this.
Yeah, he sent me something this
Okay, I just stopped sharing it.
Okay, let me put mine up.
Why don't you guys take a picture down here, Todd? I've been asked by his boss.
Stand back here.
Get everybody?
Yeah, get everybody.
I think this is
Should
it.
be an action shot.
Yeah.
Yes, always.
So, so Tyler and everyone else, this is what I've been working on, and today I had a few hours to compile everything. So we've got about 101 trees that are planned to be planted this fall in Heat Island number 2, which we've checked off all the boxes for Heat Island number 2 mitigation planting.
Oh, great.
We already did Charles Sprague Elementary School last year because I had your plan, Tyler, and I was able to identify locations there. So I can't remember the number. I apologize. I can't remember the number. But right now, Heat Island 1 is in discussion as the group has been discussing Philadelphia Avenue and what could be done. That's going to take a few more conversations. Harbor Plaza shopping area. There's no planting area in the right of way except Buffalo. And on Buffalo, because of the wires, I would only suggest the smaller trees like a malus or a cercis, a crabapple or a redbud. And then there needs to be a discussion with the district on the high school property, as well as the letters that need to go out. The city needs to send out letters to try to entice the Egg Harbor City North property owners into getting some trees planted behind the right of way or basically their front lawns. So this is where I am now with this. I don't know what happened here. 30 feet. So we have your tree planting recommendations addressed, except for Heat Island number 1 and Heat Island number 3, which is going to take a little bit more work. It's not that we can't do it. So as Nanette mentioned, I've got so far 110 trees located to be planted. Basically I was out there myself. I used your plan and I used, of course, our DV resource tree keeper program. So I have these areas located or locations for trees to be planted. And I think we can probably get some of
Do you have
Harbor Plaza.
unit
and-
block to Philadelphia?
Yeah. At Philadelphia, I think we can get Nanette Philadelphia Avenue completed. I can do that by the end of the week, at least with open tree wells and somewhat maybe potentially replacing the anemic and slower growing male ginkgos that are there that just seem to be struggling. But we can have a conversation with the tree board about that, with the shade tree committee about that. So we've been working on
This
that.
is great, Jerry. Do this.
Yeah.
Like to see that like the plan is that's really awesome.
Yeah, you laid the foundation. I was just able to fill in where I needed to. And I mean, you can see I've got on this, I don't know, it must be hard to see, but I've got 28 chestnuts located on 108 Philadelphia Avenue. The reason I didn't turn the corner at this heat island or this heat hotspot is because now it seems like his employees are parking on the grass at the on the Deer Street side. So I'm not sure if trees will survive there, especially with all of those cars with all of his employees. And then I have all of the areas that we control around Philadelphia Village Apartments. Of course, DPW, I have that area. And then the Deasterwick right of way on Havana at the community school. I have that as well as on San Francisco along the retention basin. And then 724 is the address I'm using for the New Jersey American Water Building. And so I have the Philadelphia Avenue. I wanted to continue with some chestnuts. And then there are wires, by the way, on Deasterwick, opposite our fuel tanks. But
yes, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we could use smaller trees there. So there's a few recommendations here as far as trees that we didn't plant last year because it just didn't make the list. But we're looking at the heat island right now. If we use last year's costs, we're looking at about $68,000 in trees so far for heat island number 2 to mitigate heat island number 2.
That's awesome, Jerry. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Of course. Let me stop sharing. So that's the work that's being done right now. This plan will be completed in a couple of weeks, and we'll be able to share that with you. We do have to share it with the state, the forestry, the forestry commission of the state to make sure that they approve it, because we will be using, if we plant 250 trees this year, we'll probably be using about $200,000 worth of grant money.
Okay.
Last year, we spent 135,000 on 200 trees.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are in the Heat Island A and
Yeah.
B, down by Wawa,
Yeah.
Down by Wawa.
between Wawa and Lincoln Park.
Mhm.
Yeah, we planted, I think it was 20 Princeton elm around the train station parking lot behind Wawa,
Oh,
which
great.
which was a hot spot or a potential, I don't know if it was identified in your plan, but it's really adjacent to Harbor Plaza, right there.
It's in here.
Yeah. And that's the thing with this report and everything, is that these are, again, just prominent hotspots, but if you take a look at the whole map, even just that second figure in the report, like there are a lot of places you can dress successfully. Like there's so
Oh, yeah.
that's great. I mean, as long as you're overlaying that data with the inventory data, you could
Yep.
plant any of those spots. I think would be beneficial.
This first map here that shows all the hot spots are in the center of town, and everything past the lake is blue and green.
Yeah, that's a
Which means that, there's
trees all there.
trees.
I just wanna know if any of
It's
you
Forest
ever lived,
trees.
have any of you ever lived on a property with chestnut trees? Because I did my whole life. And there's always these big things with stickers everywhere. You brought it.
But we have,
Yeah.
You have one?
we have cup,
Yeah.
We
Our
always, my
House
father had
upstate New
one,
York
we
had
had one
that.
for years too. I think it came up,
we have a persimmon tree.
yeah, but they don't leave great big
No,
sticker
no.
things there for your feet,
No,
and
they
they're
drop
this
the
big.
fruit.
That's in the fall, that's okay.
Oh my gosh, my granddaughter searches persimmon trees everywhere.
So does it attract a lot of animals to your yard?
But the persimmon,
Yeah. Like birds and
there was
rabbits.
called herd, in a Harbor
Oh, that's
City
right.
that I would go out to get the newspaper in the morning, there would be 6 or 8 deer up on the.
Well, they're only hungry, they're looking for what's.
But they haven't been,
That's
there's been
nature.
this disease a couple of years ago here in that.
But that's
neighborhood.
nature, they go where they can get food, everybody's hungry.
Yeah,
I
the
feed
squirrel, oh,
everybody.
definitely squirrels.
I feed raccoons, skunks, possums, everybody.
Tyler, there's one other thing I wanted to mention, which is a little unusual for Egg Harbor City compared to other communities that I've worked in or live in. There are 50-foot wide streets in our town, and they are there's trees along the sidewalk, but there are these large streets, very wide streets that are basically, I guess, for lack of a better term, hotspots. That there's really no way to mitigate that unless we were planting trees along the middle or in the median, which would have been great for snow removal, because I would have had some place to put snow other than on top of people's cars. And it would have worked really well. But that's never been discussed. But I could see some of the streets in town, the larger streets, of course, in town, wider streets, that have a planting medium in the middle, which really be nice, very nice. And of course, you see it all over the place.
Are there are there roads in particular that you're thinking of? Is this something, Jerry, that you would like to add to the plan to kind of keep in mind, or is this?
So I don't know if I want to add it. So Rick lives on one of those streets, and
Highway,
I don't know, right?
there are trees.
Yeah, you have trees.
And
We
New
have
York
trees.
Avenue doesn't go through either, it only goes partway, and then there's a
Boston,
bunch of
lower,
trees.
I call it Lower Boston Avenue.
I think most of the Antwerp and Boston.
Well, New York Avenue was one too, where the train was
Yeah.
supposed to go out to the river.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like stop sign.
some trees. It only goes so far and then there's woods
Yeah.
again because of the creeks and stuff.
And
Mhm.
I remember reading that Boston Avenue was supposed to be a parade route, which is why the street is so wide. It's
Mm.
like 100.
So
Oh, and
So there's a couple of streets, Antwerp, right? Boston, Baltimore is a wide one as well. I can't remember the others.
New York,
New York.
Oh, yeah,
It
and New
was,
York.
the train was gonna go to New
that's
York.
right. Let's
Yeah.
close the river.
New York can certainly get trees because there's a very wide median there, very wide median. So New York could get some trees. We'd probably
New
do
York is,
something like that this year.
it's like a little.
Dual
split.
carriageway.
Thank you.
So-
Dual carriageway.
So Jerry, I could put like a comment in the plan regarding streets with medians that trees could be planted in, or would you prefer
Yeah.
this kind of conversation to be off, separated from this?
Yeah, I think separated only because there may be some pushback on planting
Okay.
trees in the middle of the street.
Mm-hmm.
I remember years back when they had students from Philadelphia come in to look at Philadelphia Avenue. This was before they did the streetscape project. And the students recommended that Philadelphia Avenue have an island in the center and one lane of traffic on
I
each
remember
side.
that.
Parallel parking, not angled parking.
Well, I'm sure that didn't go well.
No, it's
Yeah, that's why I'm hesitant. Like it just doesn't go over. And I don't live in Egg Harbor, so I don't, like I know a little bit, but not enough, right? About what people's reaction would be.
Yeah, so I guess the question here, so the next thing with this mitigation plan is that we would kind of get any feedback, incorporate it into the plan. If there's any feedback from the engineer, we can incorporate that in the plan. But once we have all of that, this mitigation plan is done, and then once you guys have it, it seems like you guys are implementing, so like that way you can use those efforts for part 3 of implementation, using these plans, which is really great. But I'm wondering, I had on the slide pulled up there, so whether you distribute this recording or my contact information, if we want to give maybe a time frame of folks to reach out if they have any comments. Is there anything within, I guess, this group here that we would like to add or change recommendations? Or again, if you think of something and you want to call or email me or let Nanette know, and then she can let me know. We want this to be something that is.
well, I'm concerned that I really want to hear from the business community because
Yeah.
You could put a tree in front of a business and then they have conflicts, like, oh, you're blocking my signs. So I was hoping that some of the business people would be here to, express their concerns if they had any. But maybe, I don't know, maybe doing some kind of a survey where people could just log on and put their 2 cents in. And,
Yeah. I mean,
But they have to be educated as to why we need these trees first.
well,
So
we
you're-
recorded this meeting, so we will post this meeting on YouTube and on our city website.
in a survey, you could link it, and maybe even I can think about this, but maybe the presentation or something if folks want to. I mean, it is true with a survey style, you might get more response because I think folks might be intimidated to like reach out to people. And if they have a spot where they can share their thoughts, that might be a better way to go about that. But we definitely do want to give them the ability to at least see what we're talking about, and so they can see the information.
Absolutely.
But I mean, once we have that information, we can take that in for consideration no matter what it says. I mean, really. So.
Okay, cool.
Is there any potential consideration to do a presentation in front of the school board, the district, their members? Because this plan's pretty heavy as
Both
far as
of them?
recommendations.
Because it's the local school district.
Well, we did reach out to them and I did hear back. I heard
Okay.
from Gina from the community school. She's the principal there, I think.
Yeah,
Nina.
yeah.
And I think I heard from Scott over at the high school that they just couldn't make the meeting. So I'll send them the link to the ones we
Yeah.
posted and ask
Yeah.
them to do it and come up with ideas. Like for instance, I know they make those picnic tables with the solar canopies where kids could plug in. It would be nice to have them like maybe around the football field, a couple of them, something like out of the box where it's going to create some shelter.
Yeah,
for the kids.
and that's what we were thinking for kind of those recommendations, particularly around those fields, because they are open areas and they need to be open, for safety reasons, for the game purposes, for viewing purposes, like all of it
Yeah.
makes,
But there's those pockets there,
Yeah,
like clump
To
of
make them
trees here.
work with us too, to make it that people are working together.
this is definitely about collaboration.
Yes.
In terms of
Yes.
trying to get
And
these strategies
It's
implemented.
collaborate while we have funding, because once the funding's gone, it's not going to be as easy. So we do have the money to buy the trees and stuff if we have to. The money is not going to last very long. I mean, it's going really fast.
But we're way ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
So,
I think it was us in Atlantic City that got that grant in Atlantic County. That's it. And Jim Rattal is doing their plans and stuff. So I'm sure they're going to do a lot of parks and things like that.
Hard work.
Well, I'm committed to the trees, but this isn't just about trees. It's about redevelopment,
Yeah, and protecting the environment and the heat,
the roof
and
situation.
everything. Yeah.
Like we were talking about possibly doing a solar array above the parking lot, like Lincoln Park. That's
like really on like Dick's idea. I mean, if anybody's been to Eagle Stadium, the lot where the overhead solar is where people want to tailgate because it's cool. I mean, cool 2 ways.
Right.
And it works
so-
both ways. It works both ways. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's a city asset. The city owns that. So that's certainly on my list of things to try to get the city to do.
And they have that what do they call it? Well, like in other words, the energy that's generated by that solar can be used here. What do they call that?
Community solar.
Kind of like community solar.
Yeah, and those are another great benefit to solar. Again, it's something that we kind of looked into, and it's definitely a potential thing. That's something that the city looks into as being an option. But just because it wasn't mentioned here, I don't want it to sound like it's not something that's not a potential option. But at least here, as I mentioned before, it was just something.
Cedar Creek is done. Over
Yeah.
there at Parks.
Yes.
So-
Yes, it's wonderful.
And then
Stockton has
other
it
thing
too.
Is educating just homeowners that the next time they replace their roof, don't get a black roof,
Right.
get a gray
Absolutely.
roof. Where it's going to reflect heat back up into the atmosphere instead of absorbing it into your
And
house.
that's so simple, so easy,
Yeah.
People just didn't think before, they didn't know that.
And we all have lighter colored roofs at one. I know my house did. And I put a dark roof on it. That was the style.
Live and learn.
So, all right. Anything else?
That was an
No.
excellent
Any other
meeting. Thank you all
suggestions?
very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Excellent.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
I mean, they've worked really hard on this.
Oh
Thank
my
you all very
gosh,
much.
yeah, I'm so impressed.
And he's helping us get sustainable Jersey points too, which is good. You're going to be a bear trying to get
Where do you
that,
live?
I live in Newfield,
Okay.
Franklin Township.
where they have a lot of trees.
There are some nice trees there, yeah.
All right, folks, I have
All right, thank
nothing
you,
else. Oh, I did want to mention that we were not awarded that second grant for the forestry study. So we're gonna have to do a smaller plan, and we also will develop a plan to create that forestry management plan for, I think it was 400 acres.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Instead of the
John
whole,
knows.
we were trying to get money to do the whole
North side.
area. in north
North
of
side.
the lake, but we got to do something. That'll be it's just a microcosm of a bigger area. So whatever it says there is probably apropos for the rest of the area. So
Is the Egg Harbor City Fire Department qualified to do controlled burns in the forest?
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
No, I think
Only
the
Forest Service can do that.
and they provide limited like areas. They don't. And you got to get on the list, and you got to apply. So
And the window's really only a few weeks a year.
yeah. So, but we'll get through that. That'll be interesting. I'm very concerned about forest fires or wildfires. In
Thank
fact,
God we've had some rain now.
there was a I guess the meadows had caught fire.
Clark's Landing.
At Clark's
Yeah,
Landing.
but my son's the fire chief in Lower Bank, and he said the wind was blowing towards the river, and that's what saved it.
Yes, it did.
Right.
And that would have been different. Please, I mean,
Yeah.
think about it.
No, thank God we didn't have fires, because it could have been way worse with how dry it was.
And we are in drought, severe drought still, even with the rain.
That's right.
We didn't get much rain. It got misty, but it didn't pour. It poured.
About an inch and a quarter.
Yeah, not even. Well, where?
Here, it
In
did
my
here.
house.
Yes,
At
it
your
did.
house?
Yes, it did. And they said it on the news too. We did. It rained real hard all.
But we're
the
like
other night.
13 inches down, so we got
A little
need
at
a
a
lot more
time.
storms.
The trees look. So with the leaves on the trees were wilty, and they look so much better now. So every little bit helps.
Rain overnight. Yeah. Sure. All right, folks.
And
Appreciate
thank you
it.
again, ladies, for
Thank you.
everything you do.
Thank you.
See you, Jerry.
It was good.
Bye-bye,
Night,
take
Jerry.
care. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
good night.
See you,
Good night,
Brendan.
everyone.
All right, so how do we end this meeting here?
Pull the plug.
Yeah, pull the plug is right.